Okay, welcome back. And as I said last video, we're going to start on the dashboard. As you can see, I've already got the leather on that top part. And that was actually my second attempt. My first attempt, I actually just tried laying a big piece over top of it and pushing it down and cutting it along that edge with a blade. But that made a really ragged edge and it just looked like garbage. So I pulled that off, and what I did this time was I laid masking tape along here to make myself like a template, masking tape template. Then I peeled the tape off, put it on a piece of leather, cut it with a straight edge, and stuck it on, and that looks a whole lot better. The piece that goes in here, I'm not sure what it actually is on the real car, but that was a separate chromed piece. And on the kit instructions, with the kit leather, they actually tell you to cover that with leather. But all the photos I look at of the real car, that's chrome. It's not leather covered, but all of that is. So I did it the way the photos of the real car are, and so that's what it's looking like so far. That'll get glued in later. And I just cut an opening in there to help the leather stretch around that part easier. So again, that'll get bonded in like that later. The glove boxes, here's one of the glove box panels. I took the original kit part, sanded off the handle, sanded the edge a little bit slimmer so that with the leather wrapped around it, there's with the leather wrapped around, that will fit in here nicely, just like that. Now for the handle, I already drilled the hole in the plastic, but I didn't poke it through the leather yet. See if I can find that hole. I just poked into the back side to find the hole, and there it's trying to come through the front side here. So I can see where it is there now. There we go. And then the handle from model motor cars just goes in here like that. And that'll just get bonded onto the back side. They do give you little nuts for the threaded rod there, but the threaded post is chrome plated, like I mentioned in the last video, and I'm not having much luck getting a little nut threaded, getting it started on there. I don't have a tap to clean the threads off, so I'll just put some epoxy on the back side. That'll hold it perfectly good enough. But there's the glove box with the new handle on it, and kind of hard to get focused on that shiny like that. But so I'll just have to do the other one. Of course, here's the other one. Like I said, that gets shaved off. And I actually drilled the hole. Once I shaved that off, I drilled the hole a little bit lower because that edge is going to get sanded off, and I want to make sure that with the new handle on, there's still leather around the top edge of it. I don't want the top of the handle being flush with the top of the panel. So I drilled the hole a little bit lower than the normal one. And also what I've done, I've got the mother of pearl blank cut, and that sits in here like that. And the mother of pearl had a very slight curve to it. I think it's hard to get a super flat natural mother of pearl plate. So I sanded just the back edge here to try to make it flatter. I mean, it's not bad. And then right here, there was a couple of nubbins sticking up that was making the problem worse, so I sanded that flat. So that sets in there fairly flat and flush now. I think it looks good, feels even, so that goes in there. And of course the bezels and dials will go on that. But the next thing I need to do is cover around here with leather, which I think is going to be a pain in the butt. I'm going to try to use the kit leather piece as a template to cut that out. We'll see how that goes. Here's the kit leather. And here we go. So I'll cut that out. So we'll see how well this fits. So we'll see how this fits on there. Not bad, actually. Let me get that other glove box out. It actually doesn't fit too bad. I think it's going to be difficult cutting that little strip perfectly. But that's actually fitting pretty nicely. Except for that top edge there. Could be trimmed down a little bit more. Unless we get that tucked up in there first. That might be the key. Get that tucked up in there first. And then get the rest. So I think I'm going to go with that. I'll use that as a template and cut that out of the actual leather, and we'll see how that goes. It's going to be very tedious and time consuming, so I don't think I'll do that on camera. And it'll probably take me a couple of tries, because it's going to be hard getting that just perfect. But we'll give it a go, see how it looks. Get back to you here in a minute. Okay, I'm just taking a break to catch you up to where I'm at. And what I did was I took the kit leather piece and I taped it onto a piece of the new leather and just cut around it with a new sharp blade. You got to have a sharp blade. It's amazing how a sharp blade slices right through that, like with no issues. But as soon as that blade gets a little bit dull, it starts pulling and snagging and tearing, and it just doesn't cut very well. So I cut a new piece out, and I've started applying it here. I'm about almost halfway around. So I put it in place, and what I'm doing is I'm using just a little tiny drill bit and a little pin vise, and I'm dipping it in the glue and just applying a little bit. I'm only doing like maybe, I don't know, a quarter inch at a time, and then I push it down and hold it in and just make sure that it's staying in. I started right up there in that top corner, worked my way across, and then worked my way down and around this way. So I'm just going to continue around, and it's just very time consuming. I feel like I say this about everything. It's very time consuming and tedious. But it's coming out okay, I think, so far. And you just got to make sure that in some of those areas it gets up along the chrome ridge or bezel, whatever you want to call that. But I think it's coming along all right. So I'm just going to keep going along here, and I'll get back with you when all that's done. Okay, just thought I would stop for a second and get you caught up to where we're at. And so I've got the mother of pearl glued in, and I got the holes drilled in for the little knobs and stuff. There's the keyhole there. And to drill the holes, I used the holes on the back side, and so I drilled through from the back side with a little dental burr on the Dremel tool, and then opened it up until the parts fit. So you've got so you got three of those little knobs like that, one there, one in the middle, and one here, and then there's like little switches that go there. And for the little switches, looking at photos online, I just painted around the base with silver, so that actually goes in like that. So anyways, that's that. We've got that glove box door here. I got the other glove box door. I don't have the handle on it yet, so I still need to poke a hole in the leather and glue that handle on. But anyways, let's get to these dials. The model motor cars kit comes with new dials, and as you can see, I already cut one out. They give you two of everything, so if you mess one up, you got another one to try. And I already kind of messed up the first one. I mean, it's still usable, but it's a little bit bent and warped a little bit, kind of hard to tell on the camera. Um, and the reason why I messed it up is because, stupid me, I thought these were decals. I cut it out, I put it in the water, and like nothing happened except that it got wet. And apparently these aren't decals. It's like, what the heck? So I guess you just got to cut those out and glue them on. I mean, it looks like decal, but I had it soaking in water for a really long time, and it just didn't do anything. So yeah, I guess I could use that one, but I'm going to cut out the new one here. So you just cut those out, glue them on, and so of course those just get glued on across the face here. And then over top of that, you've got the bezels and the lenses. Now I had an issue with these bezels and lenses here. So here's one of the bigger ones. And the problem is on the small ones, the lens is the same diameter as the bezel. So what I did was I painted the edge of the lens silver and glued it on to the back of the bezel. I used a UV curable resin to glue it on. And I painted the edge of the lens silver. I don't know if you can even tell here. Because again, the bezel is setting on top of the lens, so you would see the edge of the lens with it on the dash. Now on the other ones, on the bigger ones, the lens was not the same diameter as the outside diameter, but it wasn't small enough to fit inside. So I sanded the edge just a little bit until it fit inside, and then I bonded it inside. So that lens is bonded to the inside of the bezel. About halfway down, kind of hard to tell, but it's about halfway through. There's a little bit of gap on each side. But then on the medium-sized one, the one that goes in the middle, the lens fits perfectly inside. I didn't have to sand it or anything. It fits perfectly inside. My first thought when I saw these was to not use model motor cars bezels and to just use the original kit parts. So here's one of the original kit parts, and all you would have to do is grind a hole into the mother of pearl and put that in there, and just put the model motor cars dial inside the bezel. The problem with using the original kit bezels is they're not the same size as model motor cars bezels. Those are just a little bit bigger, and so the lenses wouldn't fit right. I keep calling those decals or stickers, and they're not. Those wouldn't fit right. The lenses wouldn't fit right. So now what you have to do is perfectly position those here, making sure they're not crooked or uneven or whatever. And you just have to glue them in place and then glue those down on top of it. And it would have been so much easier to just use the kit ones. Just to give you an idea of what this would look like, we'll go ahead and put that one on. My eyesight's not very great at this distance, so that might actually be upside down. Something like that. Again, I'm trying to do this while looking through the camera lens. And so Something like that. I know it's not positioned properly, but you'll get the idea. You get the idea of what that looks like. Um, so I've got to glue all those on, and I've really got to be careful to make sure they're straight and properly lined up. Now, just to show you what the kit parts look like, just to compare the kit dials to these dials, there's the kit ones, there's the model motorcars ones. So they do look a lot nicer. They look pretty good. But it just would have been nice if they would have been the same size as this. Then all they would have needed was this and a clear plastic lens to fit inside of there and not have the metal rings. Now they do look nicer. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but they are shinier. The surface finish is better. It's just, I'm complaining because I'm going to have to take more time to make sure they're perfectly lined up is all. So anyways, let me get those glued on and then we'll get back to you. I'll show you what that all looks like. Okay, and here is the finished dash. Just a couple of things to point out. One is on the knobs here, the little piece that goes around the knob. The original kit part was a sticker, and those were off of the sticker sheet right here, there and there. Now those are just very, I mean, it's just a thin paper chrome sticker. And these are old enough that the sticky on the back is not sticky anymore. Once you pull them off that sheet, they're just not, they don't stick. So these, if you want to use them, you got to glue them on. But I never liked those for that application anyways, because they, you know, when you tighten the knob or put the knob in, they just kind of fold, they bend a little bit. They look like cheap paper aluminum foil stickers is what they look like. So basically what I did was I peeled those off and I glued them onto a piece of aluminum and drilled and cut those out and sanded them up, gave them a little bit of a polish. And I put those on instead, and I think they look a lot nicer. They kind of look big for where they are, but they're the same size as the sticker. Now the dials, I glued the dials on with just normal white glue. That way it would give me time to position them and align them and get them all square and straight and true and plumb and even and level and good. And then after that glue is dry, I put the bezels on. I glued the bezels on with UV curable glue, and that's in one of these. And that way, you know, that stuff is nice because if you mess up, you can wipe it off with alcohol. It doesn't leave any residue or anything behind. If you drip it on the leather, which I did once, I was very glad I did not use CA because I was putting this bezel right here on. So what I did was I put the bezel upside down on the table and I just used that, dipped it in the UV curable resin and just kind of went around the rim of the bezel. And then I picked it up with the tweezers, and when I went to put it down, it flipped out of the tweezers and landed glued down right there. And if that would have been CA, I probably would have had to strip that off and redone it because that CA would have damaged that bad enough I would not have been able to fix it. So very fortunate or very thankful that I decided to use the something other than CA. And then once you get it in place, then you just put it under, well, I was using, I think I showed this in a previous video, but I was just using one of these nail curing things, fingernail polish curer things, and that'll set off that's UV LEDs in there. So that'll cure the resin, or glue, or whatever you want to call it. And then just put all the little knobs and switches and buttons in. And one more thing I want to point out. The glove box doors. I really wanted those openable. Now the original kit parts had little tiny tabs that would go into little holes right there so they could flip open and closed. But I sanded those off to wrap it with the leather, just assuming, well, I'll just glue pins back on it when I'm done. Well, I tried that and that didn't work. So I tried making new glove boxes or lids, um, and I glued a little tube on it. And I don't know if you can see that very easily, but I glued a tube on the back side that I can then just put a wire hinge in. But with the thickness of the leather and that, it didn't open. It would bind up. It would pop open a tiny bit and bind up. This one is just made out of plastic. I tried another one out of brass, hoping I could get a little bit thinner. But again, it was just too thick and bulky. It didn't work. I tried a couple of other things. It just didn't work. So something else I didn't like was that inside of the glove box was just all chrome plated like the rest of this. And so I had an idea. So what I did, if I pop this open, I can show you what I did. I lined the inside. The lighting is horrible. My light, I have a light right above me, right up there, but it burned out the other day, so I got to replace that. So my lighting is horrible. But I lined the inside of the glove box with the same fabric that's going to be used for the headliner. And I just used the bottom panel as like the hinge so that you could open up the glove box. And I think that looks a lot nicer than the chrome finish that was inside of there. Of course, the other glove box does the same thing. I'm kind of treating this like the pistons in the engine. You know they're there, but you're never going to see them. We all now know that those open and they're fabric lined on the inside, but to actually open them and close them, I don't know if it's worth the effort. But they're there. So, anyways, this is now almost done. I still have to do the electrical contacts on the back. There's a little tab and some wires because when you stick the key in and turn it, the headlights come on. I'll do the wiring for it later. But except for the wiring, I'm calling this done. Hopefully you like it, and hopefully any of you who are also building one of these got some good tips out of it, I hope. And I'm going to put this someplace safe and put it in the car later. So next step is going to be the convertible top. I've been putting that off long enough, and it's got to get done. The convertible top is very time consuming, like everything else. I've been putting it off because I know that I'm going to have to hand stitch everything together. The instructions do say you can just glue it. They said glue it, but stitching it would be better. And I just don't want to take any chance of the glue seam failing or coming apart later on. That would just be a major hassle for the guy making it for, and a big letdown. So I'm going to hand stitch everything, which just takes a while. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Hopefully this video is not near as long as some of the others have been. So I'm going to leave it at that. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.